When it comes to racing games, Need for Speed is the franchise I've played the most of. Need for Speed 1, 2, Hot Pursuit, High Stakes, Porsche Unleashed, Underground 1, Underground 2, Carbon Shift, Most Wanted 12, Rivals, Payback, and Heat. See my rapid fire skills? So you can clearly see I missed some of them. And if you're wondering, yes, Most Wanted 2005 was one of them. Until last month, when I played this game for the first time. Before playing this game for the first time, I had some questions about it. Number 1. Why is it the best Need for Speed out there according to so many people, even though one of my posts suggests otherwise? But still, why is it the best Need for Speed out there according to like 90% of the Need for Speed fanbase? And number 2, does it still hold up considering this game was made back in 2005? Well, after playing this game, I think I got the answer to all of those questions. And if that's the case, then why not a video about it? Upon starting the game, I was greeted by this banger 9 Del by Styles of Beyond. Not gonna lie, I was headbanging through the whole song. After setting the controls, I jumped to the career mode. It starts with the player racing Razor. After a bit of cutscene, the gameplay starts. I played Carbon before, so I was familiar with the gameplay and physics. After a bit of racing, we go back 6 days before the race with Razor, when the player entered Rockport for the first time. The introduction introduces Mia, Cross and his assistant, the Rockport Blacklist racers, and then throwing you into races here and there. There's like 5 or 6 races in the introduction, so yeah, it's kinda long. In the final introduction race with Racer, you lose because someone sabotaged your car's fuel tank. And right after that, cops are on the finish line and you get arrested. After some time, Mia sets you free and you have to climb up the blacklist and beat Razor again. This is where the career actually starts. Now, it took me a while to figure out what I'm supposed to do. You have to win races, complete milestones by doing its objectives while in a pursuit, and rack up your bounty to challenge the blacklist racers. And this is for all bosses. The higher you go in the blacklist, the harder the races and the milestones will be, and the more bounty you have to rack up. So, I went on racing and beating milestones. Soon I was able to race Sonny, the first boss. Was easy. I even won his car by luckily getting the pink slip. So the game kept going on like this. Nothing more to say about the first impressions other than a problem I found in the traversing, which I'll explain after a while. As I said before, I played Carbon, so I was a bit familiar with this handling model and physics. Honestly, this handling model is pretty remarkable. I remember when I played Carbon for the first time, the handling model somewhat felt stiff to me. So yeah, some of you might experience the same when you played this game for the first time, but you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. The physics are arcadey and somewhat downforce-ish. What I mean is, cars here likes to stick to the ground, which makes them a bit harder to flip over on bouncy roads, where real cars will just end up rolling like Sonic. The gameplay is like other racing games, although you have a mechanic in this game called the speed breaker. This slows down the time and changes the physics a bit, allowing you to make split-second decisions much more easily. Well, don't use it too much though, because there's a limit and you can lose a bunch of speed when maneuvering with this enabled. Use it only for super tight situations. I'm not really a fan of superpowers and stuff in racing games, but if there is something to make the gameplay more fun, then why not use it? I honestly found it helpful in situations where my brain just refused to work fast. And then you have messages sent by in-game characters, and I guess that's it, if I haven't missed anything. Basically, you have 6 kinds of races: circuit, sprint, toll booth, speed trap, drag, and lap knockout. Circuit and sprint are similar. Circuit is like going in circles and sprint is point A to point B. Toll booth is a time-based event. Speed trap is like sprint, except here it depends on your speed. There's multiple speed camps in the track and you have to pass through them at the highest speed possible. The racer with the highest sum of speed wins the race. Also, you have to stay in first, because if you don't and a racer finishes the race first, your total speed will start getting deducted. Drag races, they're often straight line races, but here they're not. In other NFS games, drag races were in straight lines except Underground 2. Here, they took it even further. There's a lot of turns and a lot of traffic. I swear, there's more traffic in drag races than in normal races. It makes drag races real chaotic. Do I hate it? No, but I don't like it that much too. And then you have lap knockout, which is circuit races except every lap the last place gets eliminated. And then you have boss races, which is basically a multi-stage race made up with all those race modes except lap knockout. Outside of career mode, you have challenge mode, which is basically a series of races and events you can complete for various rewards. There's 68, in Black Edition there's 69, damn. There is also a secret challenge, the Burger King challenge. In order to unlock it, you have to type Burger King in the title screen. This challenge will reward you with Junkman parts, which can be stacked with ultimate parts, basically breaking the performance limit of your car by a bit. There's 32 cars in this game. Black Edition of this game contains additional bonus cars which you can only use in custom races. I'd say the amount of cards in this game is enough and is good. It's not confusing, it's not too much for the player, and I like it. Now the customization. Sad to say, it's a downgrade from Underground 2. Underground 2's customization was on a whole different level. In Most Wanted, there's not much to customize. No individual body parts customization, no headlight backlight customization, lack of interesting decals and layers, and some more stuff that didn't make it to Most Wanted. I think that's because EA didn't focus on customization. Rather than that, they focused on the police chases. I can forgive that. I'm glad no one is turning my dear favorite cars into some Christ horror.
Holy Jesus. Bruh.
There's 3 stages of upgrades for most cars. Some have 2 and powerful ones have 1. Bonus cars cannot be upgraded sadly. You can tune them in free roam. It's not detailed like Underground 2 though. And you cannot tune them in the garage, which is kinda disappointing. Overall, the car selection in Most Wanted is pretty good, but the customization is fine and okay for me. Here we are, the police pursuits. This is the core of this game. And I have to say,
it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
the main objectives of these police pursuits are 1. Rack up your bounty and cause as much chaos as possible. Number 2. Do not get busted, or you'll lose every bits of bounty and milestones you've earned in that pursuit, and then you'll have to do it all over again. To sum up the police pursuits of this game, you basically have 5 heat levels. The higher your heat level, the more harder but rewarding these chases are. In higher heat levels, there will be more powerful police units with more effective tactics. In exchange, you'll get a huge amount of bounty and easier to complete milestones. Heat 1, 2, 3 are okay. Heat 4 is where things just start spicing up. And Heat 5 is just nerve-wracking. You stop, it's over. The police in this game is just not messing around. Maybe in Heat 1 or 2, but they're just not in higher heat levels. They will try every tactic from boxing you in, pit maneuvering you, to using spike strips and calling rhinos to collide with you head on. You also have hit level 6 and 7, but those are for special occasions. Enough with the police. Now, how do you evade them? Well, you stay away from their side and they'll start losing you slowly. Once the current number of cops chasing you decreases, you can escape them. But that may sound boring to some people. What other tactics can you use? Simple answer, the pursuit breakers, which wrecks the cops. Just drive through them, and if any cop touches it, they're wrecked. There's also hiding spots, which you can use to fill up your cooldown meter after you evade the cops. The police pursuits in this game might sound great, and it is actually great, but it does come up with some issues. Number 1, the rubber banding. It's just sometimes not fair. Because of this, it feels like the cops got some sort of speed boost. It feels really unfair, especially when you're over 200 miles per hour and a cop just catches onto you with no effort. And number 2, the police chases do get a bit repetitive, especially towards the end game when you have to constantly do heat level 5 chases to rack up your bounty. But these issues are not enough to make the police pursuits in this game less than a 9 out of 10. Most Wanted takes place in the city of Rockport, and it's open world. It is not known what it's based on though. The map is quite big, full of buildings, docks, forests, industrial area, etc. Lots of shortcuts and routes to help or trick you in races or pursuits. Now in the beginning of the video I said I found some issues with the traversal. So what is it? Simple, the fast travel. Why? The fast travel can be used for literally everything except jumping to car lot or workshop. You can use fast travel to start races and pursuits immediately and jump to safe house whenever you want. This makes the open world somewhat useless. An open world game that has a fast travel like this makes the open world useless. They could have adjusted this fast travel so that you cannot immediately jump to safe houses after a race or a pursuit. It would have been much more interesting to avoid the police vehicles after a pursuit or race. A good example is Need for Speed Heat, where you have to avoid police vehicles after racing during nighttime. But Most Wanted released in 2005, Heat released in 2019. So yeah, I know it's an unfair comparison. So I forgive Most Wanted for this issue, but still, the traversing could have been better. Racing games don't usually need a good story, gameplay and fun stuff are the main focus of them. And as you might know, Most Wanted 2005 does have a story, and honestly I didn't expect it to be good. I mean, come on, who expects a good story from a racing game? They're usually pretty simple, basic, and I guess that's it. Same goes for Most Wanted 2005, it also has a pretty basic and simple story. But there is also something more about the story, and that is the corniness. Like, oh my god, it's just too corny. I swear to god, I have never seen such a corny and cheesy story in my life. And one thing that surprises me is somehow it's not cringe. Like, it's extremely rare when it comes to corny and cheesy stories like this. I'm not a fan of corny and cheesy stories because they tend to be cringe most of the time, but this one is just not. Not a single moment of this game has made me cringe. It rather made me more interested in the story. And it is actually pretty good, you know? This racing games nowadays just don't have a good story. I think most of the developers should take a note from this game and try to make good stories for racing games, but I actually doubt that'll ever happen. But we'll see. Overall, the story of this game is definitely still great. Plus, bonus marks for the memes.
Everyone.
Now, before I talk about the graphics, just know that I suck at reviewing graphics. Why? Because mostly I don't care. I just want games to be fun. But even with this mindset, I can clearly say that the graphics of Most Wanted still holds up, which is amusing for a game made back in 2005. It really shows how rapidly the graphics of old games were improving. I'm playing this game with maxed out graphics except shadows and texture filtering. You can clearly see how it still holds up. Also, this is one of the games that uses the yellow filter. Personally, I like it, but if you don't, you can just turn it off with the visual treatment option. Overall, graphics of this game is still really good. I have to say, the soundtrack in this game is absolute fire, with banger songs from bands like Disturbed, Static X, The Prodigy and more. They make you feel undefeatable. This is one of the NFS games that had some real banger soundtracks. As for the audio design, everything from cop chatter to car sounds are just great. The police chatter just sounds so realistic. The car sounds are great, although the game reuses engine sounds for some cars. Overall, the soundtrack and audio is great tier in this game. Every game has its issues. Most Wanted has them too, but there are only a few. Firstly, the AI, both police and racer AI with its rubber banding. As I said, it can be unfair sometimes. Second, the fast travel, as I said before. Third, the career progression. The way you have to progress through the game by doing the same thing over and over again can be repetitive to some people. Luckily it wasn't for me, and apparently all gamers are immune to this. This is what you do in most racing games apparently, like Carbon. You just race and conquer territories, repeat and repeat. So it's not a big issue at all, and you'll get used to it if you find it a bit repetitive. And lastly, the screen resolution. You know it's an old game, so if you try to play it on widescreen, the game is gonna get squashed. So if you want to play it on widescreen, then get a widescreen mod made by 13AG. It works pretty well. But if you want to play it in the original 4:3 resolution, I have no problem, go for it. Seems like I covered everything if I haven't missed anything. My whole playthrough of this game took some weeks because I took it slowly and tried to enjoy this game. So, after playing this game, as I said earlier, I got the answer to all of the questions I had with this game. So let's start off with the first one. Why is this game the best Need for Speed out there? Simple answer. Because this game is really fun and engaging. Everything of this game, the races, game modes, police pursuits, story, everything of this game is executed really well. I can definitely see why most of the Need for Speed fanbase says Need for Speed Most Wanted is the best Need for Speed out there. But what about some people who says Underground 2 is the best, or maybe even Carbon, Prostreet, Underground 1? Well, there's no guilt in saying those are the best games of this series according to their experience, because it's fine to have your own preferences, and those are really good games too. So, is Most Wanted 2005 the best Need for Speed game for me? Well, I think it is, but I also think it's not, because Underground 2, Underground 1 and Carbon are also my favorite Need for Speed games. And I kind of hate putting one favorite game over another favorite games of mine because it just makes me feel really unconfident and afraid. But one thing I'll say for sure, and it is that Most Wanted 2005 is one of the best racing games ever made. That is something we all can agree on. So there goes my first question. What about my second question? Does it still hold up today? Well, if I had fun with this game in 2023 or maybe even 2024, I can clearly and confidently say that this game still holds up even till today. Most Wanted 2005 is one of those games that don't want to age at all, and I'm all there for it. I'm really happy for it. It makes this game stand out alongside games like Grid, San Andreas, Half-Life and some more, which I currently cannot remember, but they still hold up and are still one of the best games out there. So, if any of you haven't played this game yet, just go play it by any means necessary, because you're really missing out on some fun stuff. So, there goes another Need for Speed game in my completed list. Now I'm satisfied, and what makes me even more satisfied is that I played this game on Linux. I'm not joking. Hey there. Just wanted to say I'm really near 1000 subscribers, so really appreciate it if you help me out reach it. And as for my content, I'll try to upload it monthly from now on because I'm busy with my college stuff. Yeah, I know, but I gotta keep on studying, right? So, see you next month, I guess.